on-wall speaker. Did you get those, Aaron?
So I don't know if he's going to send them to me because he asked if I was interested in them, and I said, actually, I'm going to do a video about why on-wall speakers suck. And I said, if you want to send them to me, I'll be glad to include them. And I don't know if he's going to send them to me or not.
He should send them to you. Who cares?
I think he's sending me some other stuff.
I think it's a good video, right? If you're because you're telling people this is an inherent problem.
Yeah, this is what you're going to deal with, right? I mean, and it doesn't. I think it's important to have an idea of what those things are, because you may still be like, look, this is the only thing I can do, so at least let me understand what I'm getting into.
Exactly, right? Yeah. It's all about understanding. Right. SVS, they put out a question on their what is it called? Their happy hour. They said, what does a modern audio file look like to you? You know, and I was like, an informed one, right? Somebody who knows exactly what they're getting into. Like, I'm going to do on-wall. I know it does this, but I'm going to make that conscious decision. And I'm going to get those expensive cables. I don't expect them to sound any different. I just like the way they look. They're expensive, and I got money. I'm going to buy them. You know,
they're going to look cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody who knows exactly what they're getting into. And so they're not getting tricked. It's like they know what they're doing. So I always like those types of videos. Here's a question. An on-wall speaker, let's just say somebody made one where the side was completely like round until it met the wall. How much difference would that make?
It would help, but you're still going to have that bounce delay from like the rear of that wall. At some point, it's going to, because you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not infinite. It's not, it's not like a giant sphere that has an infinite taper to it.
Would it just be the smoother transition?
I think the smoother transition would help, but that's something that, you know, I don't know until I try to do. And I was actually going to measure a bunch of speakers on the Clipple, and I thought, I don't even have to do that. I can just show one or two measured on the Clipple to say, yes, this trend continues off axis, but then take them outside. So on the ground, I was actually going to put mat, you know, like material around it to see how much absorption helps and try thicknesses, and just to kind of prove the point.
One. I'd love to see that.
And I mentioned that, and somebody else in my Facebook group, I can't remember who it was now, he's done that. And so he was like, yeah, man, I've done that. He showed pictures of his setup, showed the differences and the results. And I was like, that's awesome. So if he doesn't mind, I'm going to try to also take his results and incorporate them with mine and say, yeah, this dude's done it too. So it's not just me.
Right. You know? I'll tell you something interesting, because I have the Heiko one and the other one are about the same distance from the wall. Right. So I would expect the dip to pretty much be the same area.
Yeah.
But one, I'm not gonna say which, but one is a deeper dip than the other one by a good amount.
Yeah, so that's when the baffle starts to, you know, come into play too.
Baffle.
Right.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, oh, that's
I think the depth, the width of the baffle, I think all that, but I don't know exactly like how the measurements come into play, because I've not really looked into it that much.
Yeah.
You know, I just kind of understand it's going to be a problem.
Out and then back also.
Right, like there's going to be still some edge diffraction, and there's going to be, you know, and you can't say you're going directly behind the speaker because there's something there. So it's like the distance between the speaker and the surrounding edges, you know, like, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. So I would like to play around with it. I'm not planning on trying to say, here's the exact equation, but more or less just like, this is what happens. And if it's a thinner speaker, then, you know, that dip is probably going to be pushed higher up in frequency. Probably not as big of a deal, but thicker speakers can be further out, that kind of thing. So.
Well, I think that's the real key to what you have with the Clipple. You know, I think initially, people were kind of using it to like call out certain things, you know, like kind of call out things that weren't true or something. I don't know, just because they had objective measurements. But to me, the way I see it is like, you can help people really start to visualize some of this stuff. Like when you do polar plots, I'm like, okay, now I can see how this speaker puts out sound into the room. Right. I can't do that with REW. That needs a couple different measurements, and REW doesn't do that.
Right.
So, you know, it's just stuff like that. That's very helpful.
Cool. Yeah. I think like the education side of it, as opposed, like, I mean, I still do the reviews because that is fun, but I'm more interested in trying to like group a bunch of things together and say, like, I've got these 5 different speakers. Let's look at how they compare, you know, and then let's talk about why they're different, rather than just like, this thing does this and this thing does that, and then I'm done. Like, I don't know. There's not a lot to learn and be informed from that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the direction. There's a lot more education. Like when you did the center channel one, now this on wall. You know, I think the trick is really, you know, I've been thinking about it. The trick is just not to take it from like a negative standpoint. It's just so easy to go that direction. Like, when you have the data, immediately. You're just like, you can say you got the data, like, the data, so you could be however, you don't have to be. I could
just say this thing sucks, and let me tell you why. You know, but I think it's more important to come into it with like, you know, we're going to talk about this thing. We're going to try to learn from each other. I think that's more important anyway. I mean, that's the kind of person that I would rather be.
And it just made me realize that when you come at it from a more educational standpoint, then you can tell somebody like, you know what, you can still get that center channel. You can still get the on wall, right? I'm not saying don't get it. I'm saying you know what you're getting into, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And if you
gotta know its limitations.
Well, and if you hear an issue, then be mindful that could very well be the issue that you're hearing.
Yeah.
You know? I think it's good to plant seeds in people's heads, you know, get them thinking critically about stuff.